Have you ever wondered why some women seem to command a room without uttering a single word? Their presence alone bends the atmosphere. Men straighten unconsciously, women pause mid-sentence, and silence becomes a throne from which they rule. It isn't beauty that does this, nor status, nor the loud performance of confidence. It is something far older, something elemental, what Carl Jung might have called the archetypal enchantress, the woman who has awakened the power of her inner polarity and no longer needs to seek validation from the outer world. This woman does not chase attention. She magnetizes it. Her allure is not in what she does, but in what she is. She carries within her the energy of the anima, fully realized, fluid, radiant, untamed by social conditioning. Her essence speaks in symbols older than language, in the way she moves, in the way she holds eye contact without fear, in the calm certainty that she owes no one an explanation for her existence. The world feels her before it sees her. Most people misunderstand such power. They confuse it with seduction, manipulation, or control. But the truth is more sacred. The true enchantress does not seek to possess, she seeks to awaken. She reminds those around her of the divine feminine that has long been exiled to the unconscious, the aspect of being that feels rather than forces, that attracts rather than demands, that flows rather than competes. To be in her presence is to remember something lost, the silence that moves, mountains, the softness that can shatter armor. Yet this archetype is not born from comfort. It is forged in shadow. Every woman who embodies this magnetic grace has walked through her own underworld. She has met the parts of herself that once begged to be chosen, the voices that whispered she wasn't enough, the old wounds of rejection and invisibility. She faced them not with bitterness, but with fire. The woman who commands without speaking has mastered the most difficult form of communication, the one between her conscious self and her buried soul. Carl Jung taught that what we repress does not disappear. It gathers strength in the darkness and shapes our fate from below. For many women, this repression begins early. The natural magnetism of the feminine, her sensuality, intuition, and emotional intelligence, is often labeled as dangerous or excessive. Society teaches her to apologize for her depth, to minimize her presence, to equate silence with weakness instead of sacred stillness. She learns to speak in ways that please others rather than express her truth, and in doing so, she buries her enchantress alive. But one day, the buried voice begins to whisper. It starts as a quiet ache, the feeling that life is too small, that relationships feel one-sided, that chasing approval has become exhausting. She senses that her light has dimmed not because the world rejected her, but because she rejected herself to fit the world. That is the moment the transformation begins. It is not an easy rebirth. The feminine must first confront the shadow within, the parts that crave control, the impulse to manipulate affection when genuine connection feels unsafe, the mask of strength that hides unhealed fear. To reclaim her power, she must walk naked into her own psyche and face what she has projected onto others. The men she accused of not seeing her often reflected her own blindness to her worth. The world that ignored her mirrored her own dismissal of her intuition. The silence that hurt her was the same silence she had refused to inhabit. The enchantress reclaims her voice not through shouting, but through listening, to the subtle wisdom of her body, to the quiet rhythm of her breath, to the intuitive pulses that rise like tides within her. She learns that her energy speaks more truth than her words ever could. When she enters a room, she no longer wonders how to be perceived. She simply is, and that being does the speaking. To the conscious man, she is both mirror and muse. She stirs something ancient in him, the longing for wholeness. Jung called this the anima projection, the way a man's soul recognizes in a woman the qualities he has yet to integrate. The enchantress becomes the embodiment of his unconscious desires. not because she tries to, but because she is complete within herself. She no longer acts as his reflection, but as his challenge, to awaken the dormant feminine within him, to meet her not from ego, but from soul. This is why men who encounter such women are often disoriented. Some are drawn to her light, others are terrified by it. Her calm presence exposes their restlessness. Her emotional depth reveals their superficiality. Her serenity highlights their need for validation. And yet, beneath it all, every man who crosses her path feels the same truth. She cannot be conquered because she does not fight. The paradox of her power lies in her surrender, not to others, but to life itself. She has learned to release the illusion of control. She does not grasp, she receives. She does not prove, she embodies. She no longer performs worthiness, she radiates it. Her energy becomes the field in which others recalibrate themselves, drawn not by command, but by resonance. And this is the essence of the enchantress within every woman, the ability to create harmony without domination, to lead without forcing, to attract without chasing. When she embodies her own completeness, the universe responds in kind. The external world begins to organize itself around her vibration, not because she manipulates it, but because she finally aligns with it. The woman who once sought love now is love. The woman who once demanded respect now emanates it. The woman who once feared being unseen now knows that true visibility begins in the soul. The journey of the enchantress deepens in the quiet, invisible realms, those inner landscapes where the wars of identity and desire are fought in silence. It is here that the feminine psyche begins to understand that true command does not emerge from dominance but from integration. Every suppressed instinct, every exiled emotion, every unspoken truth must be brought home. This is where the modern woman often finds herself divided. She has been taught to act like a man in order to survive in a man's world, measured by achievement, logic, and outward strength, while simultaneously being punished for the depth of her feeling. Her softness is mistaken for weakness, her intuition for irrationality, her magnetism for danger. Yet beneath these distortions lies a power the ancients revered, the force of presence itself. Presence is the feminine crown. It cannot be faked, only embodied. It is the quiet authority that arises when a woman stops needing to prove her worth through noise, approval, or conquest. She becomes the still point in a spinning world, the eye of the storm, and men, even if they cannot explain it, feel this energy instinctively. It disrupts their habitual patterns of pursuit and control. It awakens the part of them that has forgotten how to feel. Carl Jung saw this dynamic as the eternal dance of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and inner masculine within every soul. When a woman lives only through her animus, she becomes hardened, armored in logic and independence but disconnected from the receptive core of her being. When a man denies his anima, he becomes aggressive, restless, forever chasing what he cannot name. Both suffer from imbalance, both long for union. And in this cosmic dance, the enchantress serves as the alchemist. She does not fight for power, she transforms it. Her silence is not passivity, it is discipline. It is the space where she chooses not to react but to observe, not to control, but to influence energetically. She understands what the Stoics meant when they said mastery begins with the self. To command without speaking is not to manipulate. It is to embody such coherence between thought, emotion, and action that the external world has no choice but to respond in harmony. But this mastery is born from inner chaos first. The woman who commands now was once the woman who pleaded. She knows the taste of emotional dependency, the exhaustion of overgiving, the humiliation of waiting for crumbs of affection. She knows what it means to lose herself in another's validation, to mistake attention for love. Her power did not appear out of thin air. It was carved from heartbreak, from disillusionment, from nights of silence where no one came to save her. It was there, in that abyss of aloneness, that she met her true reflection, the part of her that could no longer be betrayed because it no longer abandoned itself. She realized that every time she dimmed her light to be chosen, she was practicing self-rejection. Every time she tried to prove her worth, she was confessing that she didn't believe in it. Every time she chased, she was running from the very stillness where her power slept. When she stopped running, something ancient awakened. It wasn't rage, it was clarity. It wasn't vengeance, it was sovereignty. She began to see how the world mirrors the state of her inner temple. The relationships she attracts, the respect she receives, even the chaos that surrounds her. All of it vibrates in accordance with her own frequency. You see, when a woman learns to stay rooted in herself, she becomes a gravitational field. The man who is ready will orbit her naturally, drawn not by need, but by recognition. He sees in her the reflection of his own unrealized depth. The man who is unready will feel exposed, his insecurities amplified in her mirror. He may retreat, project, or attack, but she no longer takes it personally. She understands that people do not meet her as she is. They meet her as they are. And so she no longer lowers her energy to be understood. She lets misunderstanding purify her circle. Silence becomes her boundary. Detachment becomes her grace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." The enchantress lives by this truth. She guards her mind like sacred ground. She chooses thoughts that elevate her energy rather than drain it, emotions that open her heart rather than imprison it. In doing so, she begins to emit a frequency that commands reality itself. Life starts to respond to her in whispers. Serendipities, opportunities, people who mirror her new vibration. This is the moment when she realizes that manifestation is not about asking, but allowing. The feminine does not beg the universe, it magnetizes it. The art of commanding without speaking lies in this paradox. To attract what you desire, you must become a match for it. You cannot summon love from a place of lack, nor respect from a place of self-doubt. You must become the vibration first. And so, she practices presence as a daily ritual. Every breath is a declaration, I am enough. Every step is a reminder, I belong. Every silence is a prayer, I trust. Through this inner alignment, her outer world begins to reorder itself like iron filings drawn to a hidden magnet. The enchantress does not manipulate reality, she collaborates with it. Her command is not an act of ego. It is the natural consequence of being fully herself. When she speaks, the world listens. When she is silent, it still hears her. There comes a time when the enchantress begins to see through the illusion that her power was ever about others at all. She realizes that the truest command is not over people, but over energy, her own energy. What once felt like rejection now reveals itself as redirection. What once felt like abandonment was liberation in disguise. In this revelation, she no longer seeks to possess, she seeks to remain aligned. Alignment becomes her wealth, her beauty, her security. When she moves from that space, everything follows. Love, respect, abundance, synchronicity. It's not magic in the mystical sense, it's the science of coherence. Jung might say that her outer world has become a mirror of her individuated psyche, no longer split between what she shows and what she hides, but unified, radiant, whole. The world senses this wholeness. People may not know why they are drawn to her, but they feel something that reminds them of home, the forgotten sense of being enough. Her presence calls forth the dormant feminine in other women and the dormant soul in men. She does not need to preach empowerment. She is empowerment in motion, but she also understands the paradox of light. It attracts both admiration and shadow. The brighter her energy, the more it reveals the darkness in others. She meets envy, projection, misunderstanding. The weak will call her cold. The insecure will call her arrogant. The wounded will call her dangerous. Yet she responds with the calm of a woman who knows these judgments are not about her. They are mirrors reflecting the unhealed parts of the world. This is the test of the enchantress. Not to shrink in the face of misunderstanding, nor to over-explain herself into exhaustion. Her silence becomes her shield. She has learned what Jung meant when he said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." The criticism she receives no longer wounds, it reveals. Every reaction from the outside becomes data for her evolution. And so, her life begins to resemble a sacred laboratory, a place where experience itself becomes alchemy. Every disappointment refines her discernment. Every heartbreak polishes her compassion. Every loss carves a deeper vessel for grace. She no longer asks, "Why did this happen to me?" but rather, "What part of me did this come to awaken?" To those who meet her, she feels untouchable, not because she builds walls, but because she no longer confuses attachment with intimacy. She can love deeply without losing herself, give freely without expectation, and walk away without resentment. This is the quiet majesty of the woman who has met her own soul and refused to betray it again. Her body language changes. Her shoulders no longer curl inward to hide. They open as if carrying invisible wings. Her gaze no longer searches for approval. It penetrates softly, seeing beyond masks and personas. Even her stillness becomes an invitation for others to slow down, to breathe, to meet themselves through her reflection. In relationships, she stops negotiating for basic respect. She understands that love is not earned through performance, it's revealed through resonance. She no longer begs to be chosen because she has already chosen herself. When a man enters her orbit, she does not test him with words. She observes his energy. Does he approach her from fullness or from hunger, from reverence or from conquest? The answer determines whether he will rise with her or fade into the background noise of her evolution. Men who are rooted in ego will often mistake her serenity for distance. They will try to provoke emotion, to pull her back into chaos, because chaos is the only place they know how to feel significant. But the enchantress no longer reacts. She reflects. She mirrors back their state of consciousness, neither judging nor rescuing. She understands that some men will not meet her depth, not because she is too much, but because they are not yet enough for their own truth. And yet, when a conscious man appears, one who has faced his own shadows, who has wrestled with his anima and emerged whole, the meeting between them is electric but calm. It is the merging of two fields, not two wounds. There is no chase, no conquest, only recognition. He is not intimidated by her light. He celebrates it because he has met his own. Their connection does not drain. It amplifies. Together, they move from chemistry to communion. Still, she knows even such a bond cannot define her. Her energy remains sovereign, for she has learned that the divine feminine does not belong to anyone. It flows through her as a force of creation itself. She can love a man deeply without dissolving into him, because her wholeness no longer depends on union but on awareness. In the silence of her being, she recalls the words of Seneca, "He who is brave is free." For the feminine soul, bravery is not loud rebellion. It is the quiet refusal to betray herself for comfort. She is brave enough to be misunderstood, patient enough to wait for alignment, wise enough to know that absence often speaks louder than presence. Her command, then, is not about control. It is about attunement. She senses energy the way a musician senses pitch. She adjusts her presence until life itself begins to play in harmony with her. This is the feminine path of mastery, no longer reacting to the external, but orchestrating it from within. When you meet such a woman, you know it. She doesn't enter your life to entertain your ego. She enters to awaken your essence. You either rise to meet her or recoil from your own reflection. Her energy tests your integrity without saying a word. And when she turns her gaze toward you, not demanding, not pleading, but simply seeing, you understand that command without speech is not dominance. It is divinity remembered. At this stage, the Enchantress is no longer a mystery to herself. She has walked through the labyrinth of her mind, descended into her unconscious, and returned bearing the light of awareness. What once appeared as chaos has now taken the form of coherence. Her power is not an act of will, but a state of being, an effortless harmony between soul and self, shadow and light, stillness and fire. To understand her now is to understand the nature of inner gravity. Every soul possesses it, but few refine it. The Enchantress does not try to pull others in. She becomes so internally ordered that the external world naturally arranges itself around her. Her energy is like the moon's pull on the tides, subtle, rhythmic, unstoppable. She no longer needs to chase or persuade. Her very frequency does the speaking. This is the essence of what Jung called individuation, the process by which the self becomes whole by integrating all that was rejected. The Enchantress has made peace with her own multiplicity. She no longer divides herself into the acceptable and the forbidden, the saint and the seductress, the nurturer and the sovereign. She has embraced them all. Each facet of her psyche has found its seat at the table. And because of this, she no longer lives fragmented between who she is and who she pretends to be. She has become a coherent field of truth, and truth, by its nature, commands. But the path to such unity is not for the faint-hearted. It demands the death of every false identity, the people-pleaser, the savior, the victim, the perfectionist. It demands solitude so deep it borders on rebirth. Most run from that silence. She sits in it until it becomes her throne. She learns that solitude is not loneliness. It is the sacred space where the feminine regains her memory of herself. In those silent moments, she listens, not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet directives of her intuition. It speaks in sensations, in symbols, in the subtle pull of what feels aligned. She trusts it more than logic, not because she dismisses reason, but because she understands that reason alone cannot grasp the language of the soul. Intuition is her compass, embodiment, her path. From this inner stability arises an outer clarity that no storm can shake. People feel it, in her presence, the sense that she cannot be swayed by flattery or fear. Her calm is not indifference, it is mastery. She no longer reacts to chaos because she has realized that chaos outside is often a reflection of unhealed noise within. By keeping her energy clean, she keeps her world clear. Her feminine energy is no longer emotional volatility, it is creative intelligence. The same emotions that once overwhelmed her now serve as guides. Anger becomes boundary. Sadness becomes release. Desire becomes direction. Every feeling once judged now serves its sacred function. She has learned the art of emotional alchemy, turning reaction into revelation, pain into power, silence into song. You can feel this transformation when you encounter such a woman. She no longer fills space with unnecessary words or performs confidence for attention. Instead, she emanates a quiet magnetism that feels like truth itself. Her laughter carries warmth, but never need. Her gaze welcomes, but never begs. When she speaks, people listen, not out of fear, but reverence. When she is silent, they feel her anyway. And yet, her allure is not rooted in perfection. In fact, it is her humanness that makes her sacred. She still feels deeply. She still doubts sometimes. But she no longer lets fear steer her choices. She has accepted that uncertainty is part of the dance. The difference now is that she moves with it instead of against it. Her relationships evolve with this awareness. She no longer needs to fix or rescue. She understands that love is not found through sacrifice, but through resonance. A man who stands beside her must bring presence, not promises, integrity, not illusion. She knows that the true masculine does not suppress the feminine, but protects it, not through control, but through understanding. And so she becomes both mirror and muse to the conscious man. Her strength invites his courage. Her depth summons his honesty. Together, they awaken each other's dormant potential, not through words, but through energetic alignment. Their love becomes less about possession and more about expansion, two sovereign beings orbiting the same truth. Still, she remains whole within herself. The Enchantress understands the Stoic paradox, that true freedom lies in self-mastery. She is not enslaved by emotion nor numbed by detachment. She feels everything, but nothing owns her. Her peace is not an escape from life. It is participation without losing center. There are moments when she looks back at the version of herself that once begged, once chased, once feared being alone. And she feels no shame, only gratitude. That woman was the seed. This one, the bloom. Every heartbreak was a teacher, every rejection, a redirection toward sovereignty. She realizes now that what she once called loss was simply the pruning of illusion. And in this awareness, she becomes unshakable. Her worth no longer rises or falls with external validation. Compliments no longer inflate her, and criticism no longer diminishes her. She walks through life like a flame protected by glass, steady, luminous, untouchable. When others try to understand her power, they search for strategy. But her secret is simplicity. She no longer wastes energy proving what she already knows. The woman who commands without speaking has nothing to prove and nothing to hide. She is what every soul longs to remember: sovereignty disguised as softness, strength veiled in serenity. And if you were to ask her how she came to be this way, she would only smile, because words could never contain the sacred geometry of her becoming. Her silence would tell you everything. There is something almost mythic about the way she now moves through the world. The Enchantress has transcended performance, transcended persuasion, transcended the restless urge to be understood. Her energy has become prayer. Each gesture a benediction, each breath a quiet declaration of self-possession. The power that once frightened her is now the same power that holds her steady. She has stopped asking for permission to exist. She simply is. In the stillness of her being, she radiates the paradox that every wise soul eventually discovers. True influence begins where the need for influence ends. She does not chase attention because attention naturally follows authenticity. She does not demand loyalty because her integrity inspires it. She no longer measures her worth by what she receives, but by how consistently she remains aligned with her essence. Men feel it immediately. Those who seek control sense that something within her cannot be tamed. They might test her boundaries, searching for weakness, but find instead a gentle immovability, like trying to push against water only to be enveloped by it. The conscious man, however, recognizes the energy. It disarms him, not through seduction, but through recognition. She reflects the feminine within him, the part that yearns to feel, to surrender, to create. He realizes that her calm is not passivity, but mastery. Her silence not withholding, but invitation. And to the women who encounter her, she becomes both mirror and permission slip. They sense in her the possibility of returning to themselves. She does not preach empowerment. She embodies it. Her presence awakens the sleeping goddess in others, whispering through example. You do not need to be louder to be heard. You need only to be true. Yet, the Enchantress does not live without challenge. with power comes the continual test of humility. She knows how easily self-knowledge can mutate into superiority, how the ego disguises itself as enlightenment. So she cultivates grace. She remembers that to command energy is to serve it. The more she grows in strength, the more she practices gentleness. She understands that real sovereignty is not about ruling, it is about stewardship. This is the quiet wisdom the ancients tried to teach, that the feminine principle, when embodied consciously, restores balance to all it touches. It doesn't conquer, it harmonizes. The enchantress does not force transformation in others. She creates the conditions for it by existing in truth. Her mere presence reorders chaos, not because she intends to, but because harmony is contagious. And so, her life unfolds as a series of subtle miracles. Opportunities appear without strain. People arrive at perfect timing. Conflicts dissolve in the light of her composure. Even her absence speaks. When she withdraws, the space she leaves behind becomes an echo of her energy. This is command without control, the mastery of the invisible. Carl Jung would say she has integrated her shadow. The darkness that once sabotaged her now serves her. She no longer fears her own depth. She drinks from it. Desire is no longer a chain but a compass. Emotion no longer consumes her. It informs her. In Jungian terms, she has married the unconscious with the conscious, the moon with the sun. The result is radiance. And yet, her story is not one of destination but of continual becoming. She understands that enlightenment is not a fixed state, it is a practice. Every day she chooses awareness over reaction, intuition over impulse, presence over performance. She moves through the world with the serenity of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to experience. When others ask how she commands so effortlessly, she answers without words. She simply looks at them, and in that gaze they feel themselves, because that is her truest magic. She does not dominate the will of others. She reminds them of their own. If you ever meet such a woman, you'll know. Her voice carries the tone of inevitability. Her touch feels like grounding. Her eyes contain the memory of every version of you that has ever longed to be free. You will either run from her light or rise to match it. But either way, you will remember her, because through her, you will remember yourself. And when she is alone, sitting in the quiet she once feared, there is no emptiness left, only peace. She understands now that power is not found in control, but in surrender. To command without speaking is to trust the intelligence of life itself. She does not need to force outcomes because she has become one with the current that carries them. The enchantress has come full circle. What began as the pursuit of love has become the embodiment of it. What began as the hunger to be seen has become the vision that sees through all illusion. She no longer chases what she desires. She attracts what aligns. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the mantra that hums beneath her breath. A truth distilled from every wound, every lesson, every awakening. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase. She chooses.